I have 7 o'clock on Monday, April 5th, 2021 for the City Council meeting for the City of Waverly. The Mayor and Council have determined that an in-person meeting of the City Council is impossible or impractical due to the COVID-19 pandemic. When an in-person meeting is impossible or impractical, Iowa Code Section 21.8 permits a governmental body to conduct a meeting by electronic means. The meeting will be conducted by video conference using Zoom from the council chambers. The mayor and necessary city staff will be in the council chambers. The 7 council members will not be in the chambers but will participate via Zoom conferencing. Comments for items that are on the agenda or for the public hearing may be made by submitting them prior to the meeting to the city clerk, mayor, or any of the council members, or by calling 319-596-0179 during the meeting. The video audio conference of the meeting will be broadcast on normal public access channels. We will strive to maintain the quality of the video and audio during that broadcast. Public access is available through this broadcast. Meeting minutes will still be kept and will include a statement explaining why an in-person meeting was impossible or impractical. I'll officially call the meeting to order and ask Carla to conduct the roll call, please.
Beaufore.
Here.
Birgen.
Here I am.
Drenkow.
Here.
Glaser. Kangas.
Present.
Rathe.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thank you, ma'am. We will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item D is the approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to do so.
I'll move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Drenkow, second by Birgen. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from the March 15th, 2021 regular meeting and the March 22nd, 2021 study session. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the March 15, 2021 regular meeting minutes and the March 22nd, 2021 study session minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Glaser, second by Schneider. Council discussion, if any. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Item F is our guest councilperson joining us this evening. So we have Dr. James Poock has joined us this evening. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I understand you're the guest of Mr. Kangas.
I am.
Per his invitation, at least. Anything that you'd like to add, Mr. Kangas?
I just, I've known Dr. Poock for almost 16, well, a little over 16 years now, because my son will be 16 and the end of the month here. So he was recommended to us by our family physician in our previous town and when we moved to Waverly, and we've been with him since. And I know that he is embarking on a newer form of practice. And he's always taken an interest in what's been going on in Waverly. So as a former ER doctor for Waverly for a long time. So I don't know if he wanted to give a little bit more information on what he's up to now, but that would be, here.
Excellent. Anything from you, Doc?
Well, just appreciate having an opportunity to see how this thing works up, close up and personal. And yeah, I've been practicing medicine for a long time, and I've enjoyed doing so, and just want to help the communities which I serve.
Yeah, Mr. Kangas only knows you about a year longer than I know you.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet we won't
tell them how you know me.
I was going to say, I bet we have a better story. But anyway, you know the rules of engagement here. You can definitely chime in, be involved in all of the conversations that we have. Just don't have a vote. So welcome.
Sounds good.
Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
All right. Move on to item G. Got a couple proclamations this evening that were sent to me very recently, and two of them that I think are pretty important. So the first one here is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Proclamation reads, whereas sexual assault affects women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds, and whereas, in addition to the immediate physical and emotional costs, sexual assault may also have associated consequences of post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, depression, homelessness, eating disorders, and suicide. And whereas sexual assault can be devastating not only to the survivor, but also for the family and friends of the survivor. And whereas, since no one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault on their own, we must work together to educate our entire population about what can be done to prevent sexual assault, support victims and survivors and their significant others, and support those agencies providing services to victims and survivors. Now, therefore, I, Adam Hoffman, on behalf of the City of Waverly, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Waverly, Iowa, and encourage all citizens to learn more about preventing sexual violence. Entertain a motion to approve the proclamation as read.
I move to approve the proclamation as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion by Kangas, second by Beaufort. Any council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries approving that proclamation. Second proclamation, item number 2 is for Fair Housing Month. Proclamation reads, whereas April 2021 marks the 53rd anniversary of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, known as the Civil Rights Fair Housing Act, and whereas this act provides equal housing opportunity for all Americans, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, as well as to ensure fair practice in the sale, rental, or financing of property, whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 added new rights, remedies, monetary penalties, and strengthened its enforcement procedures, and whereas the Fair Housing Amendments Act seeks to provide equal housing opportunities to affirmatively further housing choices, to eliminate legal barriers to equal housing, and to emphasize equal housing as a fundamental human right for all. And whereas individuals in the city have the right to choose where to live without discrimination based on race, color, religion, age, sex, disability, gender identity, family status, or national origin, and whereas Waverly fully supports the intent and purpose of the Federal Fair Housing Act, local fair housing laws, and follows policies and procedures in order to achieve its goal. Entertain a motion to approve the proclamation as read.
I will move approval of the proclamation as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion by Birgen, second by Beaufort. Council discussion?
I won't be at all in favor of this. We've got this line in here, equal housing, and to emphasize equal housing as a fundamental human right for all. Housing really isn't a right. You actually, it's a product right now. So, I mean, it looks like this act is trying to change that. I would be very concerned about that because that would mess a lot of things up, actually. So, you know, I've been very, very poor, and I've had money, and it's always better to be able to pay the bills. But you just can't, like, you know, housing isn't really equal, unfortunately, unless we want it. I mean, it sounds like we're trying to make housing equal. I guess, what am I missing here?
We didn't, city staff nor myself, provide.
Where does this stuff come from, too? Where does this stuff come from? Because, I mean, nobody, I mean, it's really bizarre language.
So this one in particular came from the Northeast Iowa Regional Board of Realtors. It was a request that was sent out to, I think, all of the municipal entities. I think looking at the broader stroke of what Title VIII provides in the Civil Rights Act of 1968. So I understand your statement there.
I mean, equal housing, we know that's not true. As a matter of fact, I just saw a thing with all the different housing values amongst council members. So we know it's not equal. And I'm not going to trade my house with Ann Rathe's house, which is more value. I guess I'm just curious what this is doing. What is this?
I think this is about fair housing in the sense of not discriminating against people on the basis of race or gender or ethnicity. It's not saying that we should all be living in a communist society and everyone's house should be equal valued. I don't believe that's the intentional purpose, but I think it does have something to do with appropriate use of, well, inappropriate use of discrimination. We shouldn't be redlining districts. We shouldn't be forcing people that we consider to be undesirable out of our neighborhoods. I think that it is very important for us to reaffirm the rights of all citizens to be welcome in Waverly. I mean, we have had lots of grief about Black Lives Matter movement in Waverly and are Black people welcome? There's been violence against Asian people recently. And I think that we need to acknowledge that people are welcome to move to Waverly and should expect not to be discriminated against. So I am all in favor of this proclamation that the mayor is promoting, and I will certainly be voting yes.
Mr. Birgen, I know you mentioned it earlier in a prior meeting. What was the military gentleman that had the situation here with equal housing? I can't remember the name.
Captain Virgil Daniels.
Correct. Thank you. I think this is, in reflection of that, some as well, bring some remembrance of that situation in a local sense here.
To eliminate legal barriers to equal housing, that's taking that further. I agree with everything and agree with everything that Brian said, but that's too far.
I think the operative word here is opportunities. We're looking at a resolution here that's talking about providing equal opportunity in housing for people. So people of any distinction, any people are equally able to buy or rent or occupy whatever housing that they can afford and that they want to live in. There should not be legal barriers to prevent people from being able to live where they want to live. Perhaps this resolution could have been a little clearer. You're referring to the fourth whereas. Was talking about legal barriers to equal housing and to emphasize equal housing as a fundamental human right. I think it would be a little bit clearer if it said to emphasize equal housing opportunities as a fundamental human right. Because the problem has been historically, people have been discriminated against in terms of what housing they can purchase, where they can live, and whether they have the money or don't have the money. I mean, that was not the issue. The issue was they simply weren't allowed. Certain people are not allowed to live in certain parts of certain cities. And certainly I think that the opportunity to have people be able to live wherever they want to live is a very important concept. And I think that's the concept that is being emphasized here with this proclamation. It doesn't mean that everybody lives in exactly the same house with the same railings and the same color scheme and the same carpet and the same everything. I mean, that's silly. I mean, it means everyone has the opportunity to be able to live in the place where they want to live.
I do have a representative from the Northeast Iowa Board of Realtors that has requested to chime in. I don't know if her audio is turned on or not. Can you hear us, Mary, or can you talk?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay.
Absolutely. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Mary Shelleney. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Northeast Iowa Regional Board of Realtors, and we cover about 13 to 15 counties in Northeast Iowa. I'm here with the president of our board, Scott Seeley, and I wanted to clarify some of the words in the Fair Housing Proclamation, and this has been sent to about 100 mayors across our jurisdiction. We serve 264 cities, and the proclamation comes from the National Association of Realtors, and this has been going around for many, many years. And every year in April, prior to us merging with a larger group of members in Waverly and it used to be BBC Board, Strawberry Point, Northeast Iowa, Charles City areas. It was just Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and our bedroom communities. And we would go every year in April and go to the mayor's office in person and have these proclamations signed. This year it's been updated a little bit because there was some, it was kind of lengthy. And we've included all of the areas that are now in our jurisdiction. And of course, this year we're not meeting in person, so we can't be there with you to talk about this. But we are really honored to be celebrating our 53rd year anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, and then of course the Act of 1988 with the new rights. And I think the key word here is to provide opportunities for equal housing. And I think everybody's going to live where they want to live. We can't make people be our neighbors or push people away from being our neighbors. But the key in this document is that we all should have the same opportunities and we should all have the same rights to have the housing that we choose to have. It's not saying that every person is going to get an equal home by any means. And I think if we went around to everybody, we'd all say we prefer to live in a different place or a different type of home. Maybe we'd like to live in a better home or a smaller or bigger home. But those are our rights. We can do that. And for some people, they've been denied the opportunity to purchase homes or to move into certain areas in the past. And we are declaring that those barriers no longer exist, and that we as reputable citizens of the communities are proclaiming that this 1 month we're handing out brochures at an open house on the 18th of April, and we have posters and brochures to declare that we are equal opportunity employers and people who provide housing for people, and that there is no discrimination between all of the statements in this document. And I think that, I don't remember who it was that was focusing on it's the basic human right for all. That doesn't mean that everybody can achieve those goals. It's your right to have a job. It's your right to go to work. And you may not have the job you want, but everybody has those opportunities. And so that's what we're proclaiming, is that if you want a job, go out and get it. If you want a home, do what you need to do to qualify. We're not saying there are special qualifications. We're saying we are all given the equal opportunity, and that there are no barriers based on the equality of people.
So can you give me an example of what some of the legal barriers would be?
In real estate, in the previous years prior to probably many of us, there used to be red line, black line areas where people could and could not buy. And so if you were a black person, could not buy in a white person neighborhood. And white people, of course, would not buy in black people's neighborhood. And they would have, if somebody were purchasing a home in an area, they would have a notice or a flight where everybody would move. And then, of course, the property values would drop if somebody of a different race or whatever would move to a neighborhood, that it would automatically lower the prices in those neighborhoods. And redlining areas, things like that. And then there would be situations where if you went to get a loan, they may not even give you a loan if you were from certain areas of a certain races. And I mean, it went so far as to if you were an interracial couple and you were in town, one of you could stay at the hotel if you were a white person, but the other one could not. And it sounds like that doesn't happen here anymore, or it didn't, but I think we would be blind to say that it's not happened. And I think, what we're printing is a page that just says we can all do better in treating people as equal people. I think when you look at a person, you can't see me because I look black on the screen, but I'm not. But you could not tell what nationality I was because we all look similar. And when you look at your board, it's all similar looking people. And I think what we're saying is that in diversified areas, we need representation from all people, from all nationalities, all walks of life, to truly represent all people. So that's what I would say. Examples today would be, an example in our board is we have in the past thought that the best people on our board were the most experienced people, and they were all white people, mostly all brokers, all owners. And for people to get into the business might not be as easy as it was for some of us to join. And so they're telling us in some of the training classes we're going to is that we should diversify, and we should have some youth, some young people in our board who are starting agents who can tell us what's happening when you're starting. What do they need that we're not providing? What kind of education? So it's not always just color, it's sometimes age. And sometimes with having all brokers or all people who are a little more well off, we see things differently than other people. So those are some of the common things that I think people get discriminated on is age and maybe even gender. And I would say for myself starting out in business, I know I was paid less than men and my same counterparts. And that's another discrimination. So it's saying, you know, sex, a lot of things. It's not just race. But I had to kind of grow into this and see for myself what I was doing wrong and how I could be better. And I've supported the bill for, I've been here for 6 years, and I was president before then. And one of the oldest members of our board kind of took me by the hand and said, you need to be doing this. You need to go to the mayors and you need to talk about this. And so I've been doing that. And he was telling me how important it was that somebody just takes a month or a day to listen to Fair Housing Month proclamation, and we sit back and just think about how we can all do better. Thank you for giving me this time.
Absolutely, Mary. Thank you. All right. Hearing discussion coming to a close there. All in favor of the proclamation as read, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mary, for sending this out to us as well.
You're welcome.
Item H is public hearing. During this public hearing, individuals may make comments by submitting them prior to the meeting to the city clerk, mayor, or any of the council members, or by calling 319-596-0179 during the meeting. This is the date, time, and place for a public hearing for the WPC Facility Improvements 2020 project plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate cost. Ms. Clerk, have you had any written or oral comments?
I have none, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any public comments from anybody that's joined us on the Zoom meeting? Don't hear the phone ringing yet, but we will leave it open for right now. Any background, Mr. Bronner, or any city staff related to this before we go into a motion here?
I guess I'd only say right now, Mayor, that I think everybody's aware of this project. I see Mike popping on as well. I kind of let him run through the specifics of where we are to date, how we got here a little bit, but we'll talk about the bidding, the funding, et cetera, as we move forward here. But if you would, Mike, just kind of briefly run us from start to present and kind of how we got to here today.
Yeah, as a point of order, I will refrain from council discussion until we have a motion. So just a synopsis from Mike until we close the public hearing.
Yeah, so if you go to the agenda memo and look at the background information, we entered into a professional services agreement with WHKS and Company back on March 5th of 2018. So that was 3 years ago. We knew that this was going to be a very lengthy design and regulatory approval process, and it culminated with this past March with the letting. Going into the letting, when I say we, WHKS, were engaged in marketing the project to contractors that had experience and expertise in doing this type of work. We thought we had 5 to 6 bidders, contractors that were very interested in the project. They were asking all the right questions, spending time researching it, and we thought we were going to have at least 4 bidders going into the project. So we were rather shocked and surprised when only 2 contractors decided to bid. And we were about 30% under the low bid with the project estimate. So rather than asking the council to award the project tonight, we are only holding the public hearing that was scheduled. We also know what the low bid is, so we know what the projected cost of the project is. So it is very appropriate to hold the public hearing at this time. However, we are postponing the award at least until April 19, so that we have an opportunity to have a better understanding as to why we went from 5 or 6 potential bidders down to 2. And then there will be a formal recommendation and a memo to the council by WHKS. My own thoughts going forward here, we're probably going to lose ground if we consider rebidding the project. We really don't have an opportunity for a major change in the scope of the project. And so oftentimes when you rebid it, whether that would be 6 months or 12 months from now, you're chasing inflation and you may actually end up with a worse bid. So we want to have a good understanding as to why we lost interest in the project, kind of at the 11th hour. In the days before the letting, and we want to be able to have that conversation with the council so that we can make an informed, objective decision going forward on whether to award or do something different. Given that, I would also point out that the $14.5 million does include a $400,000 contingency. That is not a contingency that is there to spend. That is a contingency that is communities are encouraged to plug in when it comes to identifying how much money to reserve in the state revolving fund process, the SRF loan that we will be taking out. They want you to make sure that you have sufficient funds reserved in the event that there is an unforeseen condition that comes up. That's all that is more of a reserve. But there are potential things that could come up that we don't have a really good grasp as to what that impact could be. An example would be rock excavation. The oxidation ditch that we're going to be building is a lot like a swimming pool that is 100 yards long and 40 yards wide. So there is about 17,000 cubic yards of material that needs to be excavated and removed for this oxidation ditch. Soil borings have been taken. We don't think that there is a large amount of what would be classified as rock excavation. It may be fractured limestone. That was encountered with the ball field project. It can still be excavated with regular construction equipment and is not considered rock excavation. But we don't know exactly how much to account for. In the project, we We estimated there may be some. We put a plug number in of about 2,700 cubic yards. But what if it's 3,700 cubic yards? That's where that contingency becomes available for the project. So the intent is not to find ways to spend it, but it is there in the event that there are unforeseen conditions that may drive the project cost higher. Now, on the good side of it, if we don't have any rock excavation, we could actually see a decrease because we have incorporated an estimate of 2,700 cubic yards into the project quantities. And with that, I will let you continue and address any questions or concerns that you have.
We'll not actually start paying this back, Mayor, until the project is completed. So we'll have a solid idea of what the final loan amount's going to be. We will merely pay interest up until its completion. One of the other factors that I know we've been talking about, you've seen it in the news, is the $1.4 million we'll receive from the federal government for our per capita share of the how many $1 trillion bill to come through. We don't have a final listing from the U.S. Treasury as to what will exactly be allowed, but everything is leaning towards water, sewer, and broadband. There is no infrastructure for roads and bridges, et cetera, so water, sewer, broadband. This may be a very good candidate for that 1.4 million or 1.3 if we use 100,000 to replenish the revenue we lost during the year, which was, thank God, minimal. But that is another thing we're going to have to figure out. We're working with Spear Financial to rerun the pro formas to see what it looks like with and without, with our goal hopefully not having to change the increases already approved and leave them flat at the 10 and 10 and then be able to move through the project regardless without any increase to the public going forward. So all of that we will know much more by the 19th. And so that's what we leave you with is the hearing, the approval of the form, the spec, the estimate, but the core of it, the actual contract would come in 2 weeks and hopefully we'll have everything answered by then.
All right. Phone has not rang or rung, however you want to look at it. So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 21-47, approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate cost of $14,512,900 for the WPC Facility Improvements 2020 project.
I'll second.
Motion by Rathe, second by Glaser. Council discussion, and I'll just re-emphasize that this is not awarding the contract. It's basically exactly what the resolution states. So not a commitment at this time on the expenditure. Any further discussion and questions for? All right, hearing none, roll call, Carla.
Beaufore.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
On a vote of 7-0 with 0 absent, resolution 21-47 is approved. Item 2, this is the date, time, and place for a public hearing for the Eagle Ridge Drive and Cul-De-Sac Extension project plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate cost. Do we have any written or oral comments? Carla?
No, sir, Your Honor, we do not.
Thank you. Any public comments from anyone? And again, as we give some time on the public hearing, if there's any city staff that wants to provide any information about this, may feel free to do so. I think, again, this is something that we're pretty aware of what's going on.
Actually, I'd like to ask a question that was forwarded to me. It was asked of me by a constituent. Can Mike speak to why this person was asking about asphalt versus concrete? Can you talk about why we're using one medium versus another in this project?
So the entire Centennial subdivision has been built with asphalt streets. So the remaining 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet made sense to stick with asphalt and not switch to concrete.
Not hearing or seeing the phone ringing, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
We'll move approval of Resolution 21-48, approving plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate cost of $593,904 for the Eagle Ridge Drive and Cul-De-Sac Extension project.
Second.
Motion by Birgen, second by Rathe. Council discussion, if there is any further.
I just want to note here for the record that I was opposed to the development agreement that we voted on a month or so ago. At this point, since the development agreement was approved, it doesn't make any sense not to approve the specifications, the plans, and the contract to carry out the development agreement. So I'm voting in favor of those things, even though I was opposed to the development agreement when it was originally voted on. So for the record.
So noted, sir. A roll call vote, Carla.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Beaufore.
No.
On a vote of 5-2 with 0 absent, Resolution 21-48 is approved. Item 2A is Resolution 21-49, a resolution awarding contract for the Eagle Ridge Drive and Cul-De-Sac Extension project. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 21-49, awarding contract the Eagle Ridge Drive and Cul-De-Sac Extension project to Baker Enterprises of Waverly, Iowa for the bid amount of $568,903.75.
Second.
Motion by Glaser, second by Drenkow. Council discussion, if any. Hearing none, roll call, Carla.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Beaufore.
No.
Birgen.
Yes.
On a vote of 5-2 with 0 absent, Resolution 21-49 is approved. Item 2B is Resolution 21-50, a resolution approving an escrow agreement with U.S. Bank for Echo Development Group, LLC, as the payment guarantee to the city. Entertain a motion.
Mayor?
Yes.
At this point, could we ask for a postponement of this resolution to the 19th of April? We don't have the agreement in hand yet. It's coming, but we don't have it, so I'd rather wait till then to approve it.
As a point of order, yes. Any official method of doing that, Carla?
Move to postpone.
Just no motion.
I entertain a motion to postpone this rather than let it die of a motion. That way it's official to move.
I'll make a motion to postpone this to the April. When did you need it, Bill? The
19th?
The 19th. To the 19th.
Motion to postpone. Is that you, Rod, for a second?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion by Schneider, second by Drenkow to postpone item 2B, draft resolution 21-50 to the April 19th meeting. Any discussion further?
So this goes from motion to be to motion not to be.
To be in the future, yes.
I shakes my spear at you.
Enough. We'll go to all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries for the postponement of 21-50. Moving on to item I is the consent calendar. Following items will be acted upon by voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Item 1 is set the public hearing date to review an application for a state revolving fund SRF loan for May 17th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall. Item 2 is a pay request from Farnsworth Group for the Public Services Center North Edition 2021 for the amount of $6,066.75. Item 3 is a pay request from WHKS and Company for the WPC Facility Improvements 2020 for the amount of $21,917.13. Item 4 is a pay request from Hall & Hall Engineers Incorporated for the Youth Ball Fields 2019 Cedar River Park for the amount of $4,462.36. Item 5 is a pay request from Schneider and Associates for the Traffic Study 2020 for the amounts of $3,446 and $1,834. Item 6 is a pay request from Schneider and Associates for the Cedar Lane reconstruction for the amount of $13,069.50. Item 7 is a pay request from Line Architecture and Planning, PLC, for the South Riverside Park Master Plan new shelter for the amount of $10,000. And item 8 is a Class C liquor license for Waverly Golf and Country Club. Entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I will move approval of the consent calendar as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion by Birgen, second by Beaufore. Any other council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Section J, regular business item number 1 is resolution 21-51, a resolution approving the design of the Rock Island Depot historic signage in contract with Nagel Signs for the historical sign, which will be placed at 109 First Street Southwest, Waverly, Iowa. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of resolution 21-51, approving the design of the Rock Island Depot historic signage and contract with Nagel Signs of Waterloo, Iowa for $2,523.17 for the historical sign, which will be placed at 109 First Street Southwest, Waverly, Iowa.
Second.
Motion by Drenkow, second by Birgen. Council discussion, if any.
I would just like to thank the people on the Historic Preservation Commission who have been working so hard on making this sign happen and put a lot of work into putting what is on that sign. So I just want to thank them for their hard work.
Yeah, I did have a lot of great information from what I could, get from it. So yes, I would agree.
I just had a question of where it's going to go. I mean, is it going to go right on the bricks that they put on the corner, or where exactly?
It will be placed actually on the point of where the bricks are, just past the bricks and where the bushes are. So you can stand on the bricks and look at it.
Mm-hmm. It'll be a great focal point as people are waiting for the light to turn or whatever, give them something to do for a minute. All right. Here, no more discussion. Entertain the roll call vote. Carla?
Kangas,
Yes.
Rathe,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Beaufore,
Yes.
Birgen,
Yes.
Drenkow,
Yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
On a vote of 7-0, 0 absent, resolution 21-51 is approved. Item 2 is resolution 21-52, a resolution approving contract bonds and certificate of insurance from Blacktop Service Company for the bituminous seal coat program 2021 and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Entertain a motion, please.
I'll move approval of resolution 2152, approving contracts, bonds, and certificate of insurance from Blacktop Service Company of Humboldt, Iowa for the bituminous seal coat program 2021 and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
Motion by Schneider, second by Rathe. Council discussion, if any. Hearing none, roll call. Carla.
Rathe,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Beaufore,
Yes.
Birgen,
Yes.
Drenkow,
Yes.
Glaser,
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
On a vote of 7-0, 0 absent, Resolution 21-52 is approved. Item 3 is the third and final reading of Ordinance 1089, an ordinance repealing and replacing Waverly's Municipal Code, Chapter 53, peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. Entertain a motion.
I will move to approve the third and final reading of Ordinance 1089, an ordinance repealing and replacing Waverly Municipal Code, Chapter 53, peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants.
Thank you. Motion by Birgen, or Kangas, second by Birgen. Council discussion. Good catch on the reading there, Mr. Kangas. Hearing none, roll call, Carla.
Schneider,
Yes.
Beaufore,
Yes.
Birgen,
Yes.
Drenkow,
Yes.
Glaser,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Vote of 7-0, 0 absent. The third and final reading of Ordinance 1089 is approved. Item 4 is Resolution 21-53, a resolution approving the setting of peddlers, solicitors, transient merchants, and mobile food vendors license application fees. Entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of Resolution 21-53, approving the setting of peddlers, solicitors, transit merchants, and mobile food vendors license applications fees.
Motion by Rathe, second by Birgen. Council discussion.
As I was looking through the staff summary on this, I didn't see anything that listed the justification for having these fees. What's the purpose for imposing these fees, and what happens to the money? Is there something that these food vending places are getting in return for the fee, other than just the right to set up a food vending location in Waverly?
So we arrived at the fee. We arrived at the fee amount by the attached survey that we did of the 17 other cities and towns. And so we came to that conclusion by that. What the city receives actually is a sense of security to our citizens and the patrons of the vendors. And then also the administration fees. The police chief always does a background check on all of the applicants and so forth. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I think so, but I would assume that that's probably what would be covered under the application fee, because I see that's being increased from $10 to $20, and I'm not sure, how much time is involved in doing a background check and all of those kinds of things. I guess my concern is with the fees that are the ongoing fees. It seems to me that is being set up as really more of a barrier for people to be able to set up these food carts in town. And I think that's really the wrong message. If the city has a particular expense that we're incurring because of issuing these people a permit to come in and set up their food cart in the city, for example, we have to inspect the food cart, or we have to have people check it every day to make sure that it's cleaned out, or some activity the city has to do to justify the fees. But just charging a fee because we can charge a fee just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I guess I'm struggling as to why we're charging these people fees to engage in commerce in the city. I don't know if there's really any other group that we do that to say, well, to be able to do business in Waverly, we're going to charge you a fee.
Well, to counter that, Rod, I would say that every business in Waverly pays property taxes. And so basically you're saying other people can come into the city without paying anything to the city and compete with our businesses. I mean, we want options for other vendors to have access, but not necessarily at the expense of existing businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered how this applies to special events like Oktoberfest, the fair, Heritage Days. If they're going to have food trucks as part of the event, does the food truck owner need to apply for this and pay, for instance, the week-long fee, or is that up to the event coordinator to then make sure that they've all done that and pay the fees, or how does that work?
The special event application includes all of the vendors for that event. So an application from Oktoberfest or Heritage Days, you might see them listed and what they would serve and what their insurance would carry and so forth. And again, this is all vendors that would utilize public property. So, I mean, I guess you could say you could let somebody have it for no charge, but then somebody else might come in and say they'd want to pay for it. And I don't know if I don't want to say it's a bidding thing, but you would have to give, maybe it's the first come, first serve. I'm not sure, but it is on public property.
So, I mean, everyone's just going to move to private property then. I think we just eliminate the fees, and I agree with Rod and what's said here that it's just going to be a hamper on that. I mean, if that's what we want to do, and I did kind of reach out to restaurants, but any restaurant owner is going to say, yeah, we should definitely charge them fees. But boy, I don't know. This is a tricky one.
Well, I suppose one observation I would make is that the way the fee structure is, it rewards vendor trucks for letting us know how long they're going to be in place. So, for example, if a food vendor is going to be there a month, but they're doing it on like a day-to-day decision, maybe today I'll stay, maybe today I won't. By charging them a certain fee for one day, which is if they charge for a whole month, it would be much less than a month full of days. So it gives us a little bit of a commitment to know for planning how long they're going to be there. If we have, one food truck moves out, someone else moves in, you have the ability to somehow stake your claim to a location by paying the longer period. And I think that aspect of, a little bit of stability is probably a good reward mechanism for that. But I do very much agree with Tim Kangas that I think, there are people who are paying rent and, physical structures. And I think that we need to not make it so hard for them. A little bit of skin in the game, a little bit of commitment to the city is probably a good thing.
So I had a couple of people ask me questions. For instance, I can't remember the coffee truck that was parked in the in front of where the Unity Point Express Clinic was last spring or so. I can't remember. One of the mobile coffee trucks that was parked there. Would that apply to them because they're on private property? I know there was discussion prior to tonight about the tropical snow that's at the bowling alley parking lot, and that's pseudo established. Would that apply to them? Then I brainstormed the thought of, a lot of people this day and age for a retirement party, a graduation, they will hire in a food truck into, into their driveway or their side yard or something like that, or say, hey, we're renting the shelter house at the park, we're just having a closed event, they're going to show up there and serve food for our group. What elements does that fall in with these things? You know, the veterans post, let's say they want to bring in 5 food trucks, and they're just going to run the outdoor bar down below for one of their summer events and have a band play. Are all of those vendors going to be subjected to paying these, or is this, when we're talking about it being on a public street for public sale for everybody and anybody to partake in the public? Maybe Bill can answer that a little bit better.
So the chapter actually provides that this is governing people on private property. It's not on public property, because we don't allow people to set up food trucks in the street or in the right of way, except for special events. Special events is the permission, and then once you get the permission to operate on a public property, then that special event person or entity gets to invite trucks to be on the public property because it's become a special event grounds. So this is really about monitoring. If you look through the way the statute is written, the way the ordinance is written, it provides standards that have to be governed by the community. You have distance requirements, you have locations, you have lots of things that have to be watched. So you have to have somebody inspecting that. You have to have people that would respond to it if somebody's violating the provisions. And you just want to know where those people are in your community to see that they're a reputable, something that meets the criteria of the statute that you're writing. So I think it's really, the purpose is to make it fair with the rest of the folks that have brick and mortar stores in town. We're watching them for things. We're governing how they operate. So we're doing the same thing with a food truck that comes from out of town. And I know some of them are from in town too. People that own food trucks sometimes set them up in their own communities. But it's a minor fee that we charge, and it's supposed to offset the staff time that's spent in setting it up and monitoring how it's set up and making sure that it follows the rules.
I want to step back in big picture here for a second. I think this is a very important time for us to be very, very welcoming to businesses of all sorts. And these fees really just kind of grind the gears on that. And I think this is setting Waverly backwards. So I'd be fine with getting rid of these fees, and then we could move forward with this. Otherwise, it's scrap to scratch the whole thing, in my opinion. But I want to, here's, I think one way we could maybe think of this, or at least talk about this. Is there a place to plan along the river where we have, water bibs and everything else? Then we can justify these kind of charges and really kind of create an environment where we, get really active with all of the food vendors and really, kind of create a food vendor community within our city. But if we do this, it's just, we're going to keep, Bremer Avenue, we're just going to keep ghost town in the place if we keep doing nonsense like this.
Another question that was asked of me, Bill, was from a fairly well-known ragbri vendor that follows these types of ordinances very well. And they said, I have no problem paying a $250 vendor fee for the entire year on January 22nd, as soon as the ragbri route is announced. That way I'm grandfathered into this whole thing, and there's nothing you can do to stop me from coming in and being on somebody's private property with your ordinances and stuff, because I'm already in compliance. How does that play out with this?
Well, the way the thing is written is that you have to identify your location. You have to figure out where you're going to set your mobile truck or your trailer. And, when it comes to ragbri, that's kind of a unique thing, because ragbri is controlled and basically sets up a special event permit for your entire town so that they control everything from the start. So it's really, unless you're a ragbri town, there's nothing like ragbri. And when it comes to fees for these types of things, again, these are a lot of times out-of-town vendors competing with our local vendors, our local brick and mortar stores. We try to do fees during times that will require our staff to do things, to monitor things, to check and make sure things are done right. And it's a small fee to pay in order to enjoy the benefit of soliciting customers in your community and to making sure they're doing it in a proper manner. We want to know where they are so we know if they're not in the right of way or in parks or in public property. And we want to make sure that they're set up appropriately pursuant to the rules in the newly adopted ordinance.
I have a couple of questions. Which city department is going to be in charge of inspecting if that needs to happen and making sure that people renew their licenses every year? And have other communities seen these fees as an obstacle to vendors coming in?
The first answer is probably that the clerk's office is going to be signing the permits. There'll be others that could obviously inspect the locations and find out where they are, whether it be the police and monitoring complaints as to whether they're following their permit. Could be our nuisance administrator, our zoning administrator who does also nuisance complaints. There's a lot of staff that keep and observe for violations of different things in this type of situation, but generally it's going to go through the clerk's office for the permits themselves. And I don't know about the other cities' experiences. Maybe Carla knows more.
My problem here, Bill, is I don't have a problem with keeping track of where these people are and having them come to City Hall and registering. My problem is with charging them the fee to do that. It seems to me that the fee is just being placed there as an obstacle to have them register. We're talking about such small amounts of money, you know, $1,000, maybe $1,500 total for the year. It just seems to me that what we're telling people is that we really don't want you to come in here with food carts. I think the city has an obligation. I think they have a duty to keep track of these people, like you said, that we know where they are and when they're going to be there and when they're going to leave. I don't have a problem with having them come to the City Hall and register. They're going to have to do that. The problem that I have is having them pay a fee for the opportunity to come to Waverly to do business. That kind of restraint just kind of sticks in my craw. I don't like to see regulations that are put on people just for the sake of making them jump through hoops. So I have a real problem.
I agree with Rod as well, and Matthew. And one of the biggest reasons there's an application fee, and maybe that should be it so that we can govern that, especially like right now, because there are a lot of people that maybe are testing. They're in a food truck. Maybe they're testing the area to see how well a business would do in this area. And people will shy away if they're going to have to pay this, an application fee plus this. Obviously, we want everything to be safe for, people in the community. But, if Scratch Cupcakes comes in for a day, everybody's excited and people come from all over the place in the surrounding communities to see if they can get a cupcake, and that brings people to the community, maybe to do other shopping as well. And out and about, especially during the summer, walking, riding their bike. So it does bring some people, maybe from the smaller surrounding communities. But really, I think it's, we really have to think about, hey, what if somebody is testing this area to see if this business will work in the Waverly community? So I think we have to think about that as well. The application fee, I concede that so they can register. But really, these additional fees, I see that as a deterrent.
That was something that was brought up to me is, like Scratch Cupcakes, Hertz Donuts. Some of those entities do kind of can join with an entity or a nonprofit to do a fundraiser, even though they're selling outright, a portion of their proceeds are going as a fundraiser. We've seen it with the Hospital Foundation. We've seen it with Cedar Valley Friends of the Family. We've seen it with all different kinds of organizations that are using these as a fundraiser. I know Fidelity, when it was State Bank, they would have their Grilling for a Cause. Those things apply. And so when you're dipping into their pot with $50 right off the top of what's supposed to be a positive thing for, an entity or fundraising, that can impact, how they're going to be able to function and operate. So any further comments? Otherwise, we'll move forward with the vote.
Well, I mean, again, I had my say as far as I think there should be something more than just the application to offset a little bit of that. I know most of these trucks and stuff will be inspected by the county Board of Health and stuff in terms of food safety aspects of it. That's not, I don't believe our city does that. I believe that, but that's done through the county. But my concern also, I had the same kind of question that Ann had about the festivals or the events that are in town, and do we end up charging the events a fee overall that they pass down to their trucks that come in? Do they get the exclusivity part that for their events, whereas one of these food trucks may have paid a fee for the year, and they're going to be sitting there outside the event saying, we've got a license with the city to be here at the same time. And so now they're along with the event, but they're not necessarily tied directly to the event. So, what happens with, some of those competing possibilities that end up in there, and how do we control that? So I've got some concerns about this, and I'm not so sure that we've got it all the way thought out for all of the contingencies yet to even maybe go one way or the other on this tonight.
So just to point out, in section 53.13, the mobile food vendor definition says the following are exempt from the requirement of registering, and that's the vendors that are permitted in conjunction with a community special event. So that's governed through the special event permit. It's the independent food vendors, I believe, that are the ones that are being monitored in this way through these permits and through the cost to operate for a certain period of time.
Yeah, but what I'm concerned about is that those special events, when they're contracting or contacting food vendors to come in for their events, they're kind of saying, hey, we've got essentially a captive audience for you for our event that is going to be here. And yet there's this other food vendor that might be located right next door that has the right, because we've given them a permit. They've done the process and the fee, and they've paid all that they're now going to be competing with these other vendors that were thinking they were coming in with kind of an exclusive deal with the overall event. And while they may be on the grounds or in the event site itself, these other food vendors are sitting there with the possibility of ciphering some of that off.
Well, and typically a vendor at a special event has to pay a fee to be a vendor. So the food trucks, the other vendors at Heritage Days, for instance, pay a fee to be there. And usually they don't mind. Our fees tend to be lower than other festivals, apparently. So it's not a barrier for these people to pay fees. So I think it's helpful to have that clarity about the special events permit. It also looked like there's an exemption for nonprofit organizations like the Girl Scouts, et cetera, but does it also hold if a nonprofit has hired a food truck to come for the day and they're donating proceeds, or those people still have to pay the fees?
I don't know that.
Because I know that there will be food trucks that'll say, hey, XYZ, I'll give you $50, to have an arrangement with you all year long. or I'll give you $20, every week versus paying, whatever. I've seen that happen elsewhere to circumvent these types of ordinances, but at any rate, any final comments? I saw you opened up there, James. Did you have anything?
Just briefly, Mayor, I think we can punch holes in every single ordinance we're ever going to develop and try and find one-offs that are not going to meet this. And I feel like it's what we're doing tonight. If you don't want the fees, don't vote for the ordinance. If it fails, we'll come back and do something different. But while we're at this, let's not do parking fines either. That's only $5,000, and that could be a deterrent for people that want to park downtown or anywhere else. We can get rid of a lot of fees that we charge that may be deterrents if that's the premise that we're going to operate under. So I just take a breath and look at for what it is. There's 17 cities we looked at. Almost all of them charge these fees. We were just trying to do something similar so we weren't outrageous with what we were doing. Again, we can punch holes in this all night long, or we can just defeat it, approve it. That's pretty much your options, and we'll either redo it or continue with it. So I would ask that we would just move forward at some point.
So you need to get more revenue, I think kind of is what you're saying here. And I'm okay with going up to 20. We could change it to 30. I'd make that motion, but strike this 51 day, 101 week thing. Or we can kill the whole thing and come back to it. But I'll make a motion right now to get rid of this 50 for 1 day, $1 for 1 week, and we keep going up to 20.
Second.
Got an amendment to, I'm just pulling it up here. So what is your actual amendment, Mr. Schneider?
I would strike basically
the third whereas.
No, I'm looking in the memo. I'm sorry. Yes, the third whereas, correct. We could I think strike that whole thing, right? Yeah.
Does the application fee stand the same?
Yeah,
$20.
The second whereas takes it from 10 to 20, so that would stay the same and achieve some of what staff is asking, I think, here. So,
okay. Is that what you understood, Ms. Beaufore? All right, I just wanted to clarify just for Carla's notes here. So on the proposed amendment to Resolution 21-53, as just reviewed, do I need a roll call or just a voice vote, Carla?
Could you please state the amendment again?
So the amendment is on Resolution 2153. The first and second whereas stay the same. The third whereas with the daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly fees is struck.
And can I just ask a question? This is not just about food trucks. This is about any sort of mobile vendor of any type of product. Is that correct?
I would presume so.
Okay.
Is that
so
correct?
This could be a food truck. This could be someone who pulls up a truck to sell clothing, to sell furniture, etc. Wouldn't have to pay any fees.
The application fee for the police department to do their baseline.
But not annual fees.
Correct.
Okay, so it could be competing with all sorts of businesses in town, not just restaurants.
So technically, if we're looking at this with, sweet corn vendors, they would, they're pulling up Harringtons down at Waverly Tire or wherever they park. I don't know which vendors park which places, but since they're not part of the official farmers market, they would be part of this ordinance. So they would have to pay that fee, as I understand it, and it could be, since they're selling for more than 1 month, it could be $250 a year. So,
okay, so just to clarify, if we vote for this amendment, then a truck could pull up next to Mr. Schneider's furniture store and sell furniture out of it without paying any fees.
On private property.
On private property.
Yep. So if the Pizza Hut lot wanted somebody to allowed somebody to pull up a truck full of mattresses, yep, $20 and they could do it.
I think that'd be a beautiful thing if we became Iowa's mattress destination. Bring on all the competition. I welcome it.
All right. So on the amendment, a voice vote, all in favor for the amendment as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I don't know who we had, so we should.
We do a roll call vote, so we have the count.
Yep, call for a roll call. Carla, I'm the same.
Okay. And before I do, Mr. Mayor, there is an exemption for people selling like the corn on the corner and stuff like that. It's covered in 53.9.
Okay, I stand corrected on that.
Okay, Schneider.
Yes.
Rathe.
No.
Kangas.
No.
Glaser.
No.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Birgen.
No.
And Beaufore.
Yes.
With yeses at 3 and noes at 4, the amendment does not stand. So back to the original motion, correct? Moved by Rathe, second by Birgen as stands. Any final discussion before a roll call vote?
I do think that there are parts of this that are very confusing. You know, and I don't know that our bringing up questions is poking holes in it. I just think it's very confusing for anyone who's going to apply for this to try to figure out if they're exempt, if they are, you know, if this applies to them. And so I wish there was some sort of simplified summary that could go along with this, so that anyone who's applying would understand what exactly the rules that they need to follow. Because obviously, given the amount of questions and discussing, it's not clear cut. And so whether we should clarify that before we vote or not, I don't know that I have an answer to that right now, but it is confusing. And so I'm wondering if it could be clarified more before we vote.
Because I would request the city create a list of frequently asked questions, FAQ, to address a lot of these questions that work's coming up with. And any more that they get asked a lot.
So I would just say too that Valerie or myself, or both of us sometimes, we definitely have a verbal conversation with these folks, and we continue emailing back and forth as well. It's not just they fill out the application, submit it, and away we go. So, and typically, quite often, we actually have a discussion about it at the department head level in our meetings.
So Carla, do you think it would be useful to have some sort of a more clarifying statement, or like Brian said, that list of frequently asked questions? Would that save you time? Because that is one reason we do fees, is because, you know, your time is valuable. And so would it make things more efficient and user-friendly to do something like that?
I think the frequently asked questions are always valuable, and I feel like we certainly could add that to the website and just start it fresh, where once we get a question, we can add that with the answer. I feel like it would be challenging to go back and try to come up with such frequently asked questions. We might be able to develop maybe half a dozen or so by reading it through ourselves. But yeah, I think that would be a living, which most of them are, a living type list.
All right, hearing nothing further, we'll move towards a roll call vote. Carla.
Beaufore.
No.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
No.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
On a vote of 4-3 with 0 absent, resolution 21-53 is approved. Item number 5 is the approval to hold a special election to fill the upcoming Ward 2 vacancy. Entertain a motion.
How do you want this done, Mr. Mayor? Do you want an actual resolution or just simply to say that we move to approve a special election? How specific does the resolution have to be?
Well, it's not drafted as a resolution here. I mean, I guess we could.
I can do a resolution.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can. 54 is open, I think.
I move that a special election be held on June 1, 2021 to fill the vacant Ward 2 City Council position.
As long as that fits in the timeline with the county auditor, I have no problem with that. I think the point is to be moving in that direction to whatever fits in the timeline, if I'm not mistaken. I know Carla knows a little bit more about this. I don't think we want to necessarily tie ourselves down to that date. Not that we couldn't come back and amend it, but just to know that we're going towards that direction. And as we all know, this is a discussion point yet.
But I think the question is that we were trying to decide on tonight is whether we're going to have a special election or have a city council appointment.
That would be the correct.
The intent of my resolution would be that we have a special election at the earliest date that we can hold a special election, which my understanding of the schedule will be June 1, but I understand what you're saying is it's possible that circumstances might require it to be held later than that. So since my resolution that I offered was not seconded by anyone as far as I know, I'll change the wording on that a little bit. We'll make it, I move that a special election be held at the earliest possible date to fill the vacant Ward 2 City Council position. How's that?
I love it. If I could second it, I would.
I'll second it. Look at that. We're all jumping up to second that.
I think I got Mr. Birgen first to jump in there.
I guess I would have amended it or phrased it to be at the earliest possible date from after June 1st.
I think that's going to be dictated by the auditor's office. It can't be before.
Right. I mean, that leaves it to the auditor's office to tell us what the next available date is. But since that's when the vacancy becomes open,
right,
that we state that's.
And that's what Rod's resolution insinuates is the earliest time that we can.
And I think the schedule was that June 1st might actually be the earliest election, open election, because that would fit in the schedule.
Correct.
Yes, and the auditor actually told me that June 1st would be the earliest possible date with a May 31st resignation date. And she said that they are available or open. Their schedule is open for that date as well.
Then let's claim it.
Stick the flag. All right. Any final discussion?
I suppose this would be a good time for you to mention, I think we have had at least 4 different people express interest in filling this vacancy. Now, it's my understanding they still have to fill out the paperwork. Additionally, anyone else who may or may not have already contacted us can fill out the paperwork and put their names on the ballot. But I suppose I'm postulating that we may have as many as 4 candidates on the ballot. So there's a very good chance that none of them will actually get a majority, and we may have to have a runoff ballot, a runoff election. So I'm going to once again mention that it sure would be nice if we could have an instant runoff to save us the cost of a second election. It sure would be nice. I don't believe we have that option, but I'm going to once again mention that it would be nice.
Can I make note that the law provides that the the council actually has to give the auditor the chosen date for the special election. So you're saying that by saying the earliest possible date, but you've already been told it's June 1st. You probably should change your motion to ask for June 1st.
If that's the case, I'm going to change my motion back to what I originally proposed as June 1st.
I'll second the original amendment, which never got seconded, or the original resolution.
We're adding the date of June 1st.
I was just going to say, as long as Chris can guarantee he's going to be gone by May 31st, we're good. We're in good shape.
He may want to be gone sooner than that after this. So we got the addition of the date of June 1st, 2021 for the election, seconded by Birgen. That's our current motion on the grounds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, Carla.
All righty. Let's go with Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Beaufore.
Yes.
The vote is 7-0, 0 absent. I don't have a resolution number, but the item has been approved. We'll go with that for now. All right, item 6 is revisit and affirm resolution 20-126, a resolution requiring face masks be worn by any member of the public while being an occupant of a public building. Entertain a motion.
I'll move that we reaffirm resolution 20-126, a resolution requiring face masks be worn by any member of the public while being an occupant of a public building.
Second.
Motion by Drenkow, second by Birgen. Council discussion. I'd entertain any comments from Mr. Bronner regarding staff input as far as how this is going and that kind of stuff as well.
Same as prior months, sir. We've had no real issue at all. There are individuals that have come in without a mask. We have found a way to work with them and still conduct business, whether it be in a much larger room, an open air setting, whatever it may be. We've denied no one, and so far so good. We really don't have any issue at this point.
James, can I ask, because I'm not sure where city staff or city employees even fall on the vaccination schedule. I know as a teacher, I've gotten my vaccination and then we were pushed up the line a little bit, but I don't know what they did with city employees.
It really depends on discipline. Quite a few city employees have already had at least their first shot. I myself had my first shot. As you know, today is open for the entire public. So a great deal of city staff have had their first shots. They will probably have their second ones at the end of this month, early May. And then, of course, you have the 2-week period after that. That's what we're told. But so far, a great deal of staff have had that first shot, some even second shots, again, depending on their discipline of what they do for the city itself. We've been in different categories moving forward. And so, again, it really depends on the individual.
I will say that I am scheduled to get my first shot tomorrow. I'm scheduled to get my second shot on May 5th. And it is my dear hope that by the time June comes around, we can be back to meeting in person. For me, one of the requirements is everyone who wants a vaccine will have access to a vaccine before we are meeting in person. And I'm hoping that by the time we get to June, we'll be at that state.
I'd like to chime in on this a little bit since I've been watching all this happen. The data on masks, I think, has been overstated by many people. And at this point, with the number of people who have been vaccinated and the number of people who have acquired immunity through natural exposure, I think that the mask resolution is not necessary anymore. The data supporting mask mandates is quite weak. The CDC, its own study that was published March 5th, shown that mask mandates only reduce the case volume, only reduce the increase in case volume by 1.8%, and only increases the case volume of fatalities by 1.9%. And if we're assuming that masks have no downside to them, then that's probably a good thing. But I find it hard to believe that anybody really believes that masks don't have a downside. I've seen a lot more people in my office who have had problems with masks, patients who have suffered past traumas, who have difficulty going out in public because of the mask mandates. I'm sure Dr. Rathe can attest to the increase in depression and anxiety that's related to the isolation that masks promote. People have been sleeping more poorly. They've been eating poorly. The average weight gain for citizens throughout this pandemic response has been 1.5 pounds per month. And I think that our substance abuse is up, suicidal ideation is up. And I think the fact that masks isolate people from other people, remove you from communicating with other people in an efficient and humanly manner, and the fact that humans were designed to look upon other human spaces, that the gain in wearing the masks doesn't support the harm that the masks are doing, particularly when the gain is very, very small and quite marginal based on the CDC's own study.
I am very saddened by the corruption that has taken place in this public health debacle, and I really hope we'll do the right thing here. But high functioning anxiety, that's a real thing. I have a bit of that. I can't wear a mask, guys. It's interesting. I go into City Hall and there's pressure to wear a mask. Like, I can't wear one, and it's so sad. It's so sad watching this roll out. We've brought politics into this, people, and now we're going to have accountability for that, because what happened, what transpired will never happen again, fortunately, but we've got to get through an election process. But please, let's unbox this mess first by getting rid of this thing.
I'll just say that since my practice was mentioned, I actually talk to more people who are nervous about people who don't wear masks and more people who are nervous about getting COVID. I do see a lot of anxious people, and some of them do find it difficult to wear a mask. They feel a little bit claustrophobic. But I would say for the most part, people are able to adapt to that. The people that I see isolating, I can't really blame it on a mask issue. And the people that I see gaining weight, I think it's because they're not exercising, not because of the mask mandate, and they eat too much. So it's really hard for me to blame all of societal ills on masks. I think that, as Heather has pointed out to us before, masks are just one part of how we protect ourselves against COVID. We have the vaccine, we have hand hygiene, social distancing, and masking. And, something is preventing us all from not getting influenza this fall. And whether masks have something to do with that, I'm not sure. But I can't conclude that most of my patients are more anxious because they're being asked to wear masks.
I think I think that this is a personal choice for people. It really should be a personal choice for people to wear a mask. And, and you said, I have pointed out several times, it's a combination of things, and that masks were emphasized way too much. It was like that was the cure to this all. And I really feel that masks have been pushed and nobody else is doing anything else, when there's so many other things that contribute to infection control, so many other things. And one of those big things is hand washing, so, I feel like, if you're comfortable wearing a mask and you can wear a mask, great. I feel like if you can't wear a mask, nobody should be forcing one on your face. James, I appreciate that. Hey, there's people, you worked with a person, maybe more than one, that couldn't wear a mask. And you accommodated that. That is awesome that we were able to do that. And I think that we should be opening up and be accommodating more and more, to people not being able to wear that mask. And we are being vaccinated. People are understanding hygiene and infection control procedures a lot better, and being educated on that. So I'm more open to, hey, we need to, open this back up. Go ahead, James.
My concern isn't so much that people want to wear masks. I think they should be allowed to wear masks, but mandating it is my concern. Wearing a mask is a public health medical intervention, and medical interventions shouldn't be forced upon people. We shouldn't force medical interventions through threats. We shouldn't force medical interventions through force, and we shouldn't force medical interventions on people through fear. I think we need to be honest about what the benefits of our masks are and what the downsides of masks are, and let folks make their own decisions. Just like any other medical intervention that we propose for our patients, we shouldn't force it on them. We should tell them the pros and the cons and let them make the decision. But forcing this on people is the wrong way to go.
Well, I think as Mr. Bronner just pointed out, we haven't been forcing it. There have been people who come to City Hall who have not been able to wear a mask, and they are provided service. We're not trying to force masks on the entire civilization. What we're talking about is city buildings, and we need to look at the staff's comfort. We had people who were blatantly coming in and coughing on the staff before we did this. And I think having this rule in place gives the staff something to fall back on to say, look, we would request that you would wear a mask in our building. If they have panic disorder, if they have PTSD, if they have some other issue that COPD that makes it difficult for them to wear a mask, we were just told by the city administrator that they are accommodating that and providing service. So,
but that's the problem. The resolution mandates the mask. Right. So let's get rid of the resolution. And this should have been done a long time ago. As a matter of fact, in October, I said, what metrics, council, are we going to look at when we dump this thing? And it was noted amongst council members that we would look at the metrics that we had in May. Well, you know what? We blew right past those. And I want to look at that real closely, too, because we have to look at this PCR data that the media has been spouting out real carefully. There's been some people looking at this, and this is going to be quite a political hot potato. But I don't want to get on that. But this mask thing is really insanity. And I'll tell you what, I did. My family and I did something slightly insane. We drove to the Grand Canyon over spring, and drove there and drove back, and it was quite eye-opening. New Mexico, boy, I'll tell you what, I don't know what they did in New Mexico to get all of these deals done, but it's extremely oppressive in New Mexico. It's not a place you want to be. It's very friendly. People are very worked up. So you can definitely see the effects of mask mandates, and then you cross the border into Oklahoma and it vanishes. And this is behavior I've been noting and talking about for a long time, that there are very, very bad effects. Communication is one of those. And I can guarantee you we have worse communication going on inside City Hall with masks on. So let's get rid of them. Let's quit this political nonsense.
I would agree. Let's quit this political nonsense. This is just getting ridiculous, The CDC says wear masks. Until the CDC says it's okay not to wear masks, I think we have a responsibility for the people that are working in our city to make sure that people don't infect them. If you don't want to wear a mask, fine, don't wear a mask. This isn't some kind of mandate that says that everybody in the city of Waverly has to wear a mask. If you want to get sick or get the people around you sick, that's fine. I don't really care. But I have a responsibility to the people that work for us in the city. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we keep them as healthy as we can. And part of that right now is wearing a mask. The CDC says it's effective, keeping people from getting sick. We want to try to keep our employees from getting sick. And that's all we're doing here is saying, if you're going to come and interact with our employees inside a city building, please wear a mask. And that's basically what we're saying. We go over all of this crap month after month after month, and it's just ridiculous. That's all it is, okay? If everybody's grandstanding on this, yeah, politics is being brought into this. It's not the people who are saying we want to be safe that are bringing in the politics. It's the people who are saying we have a right to make everybody sick that's bringing in the politics. So I wish... Well,
I'm going to just... Rod, I'm going to say...
I am talking, please.
Okay. Excuse me. I apologize. I thought you were done.
No, I wasn't done. I think we need to just vote on this thing and go on, and I wish we would not have renewed this month after month because we have the same silly discussion every single month. Hopefully we'll be able to do this, and the next time that we vote on this in the next month, they say, okay, we no longer have to wear masks because the pandemic is over. But right now, I'm going to trust what the CDC says. The CDC says wear masks, and that's what I'm going to vote for. Now, you can go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr.
I apologize for interrupting you, Rod. I certainly wasn't my intent. I thought you were done. You know, the CDC has changed its course on a number of these issues over the time. And again, their own study showed that the benefit was very marginal for mask mandates. A decrease in the growth of only 1.8%. The decrease in the growth of cases by wearing masks was only 1.8%. So if you had over a 100-day period, if 100 people in the county that weren't in the mask mandates got 100 infections, and those that were in the mask mandates got 98. So I don't know if the quality of the data points that do these really do any good for people? That's my concern. I don't think the masks are really doing the good that everybody's been made to believe that they think they are. I think the harm of the masks exceeds the benefit of the masks, and that's why I'm stating what I'm stating. The data just doesn't add up over and over and again. I'm not a political person. I'm not running for office. I'm not in any position. I don't want to be in office. I'm not a politician. I'm not the CDC director who thinks that there's an impending doom and using fear to get people to comply. I'm not a politician, and the CDC people are politicians. They have to be in that circumstance. And so I'm just trying to do what I think is best for the people in my community. And I've seen many, many more people harmed by our response to COVID than I have seen that have been harmed by COVID itself.
Dr. Poock, I appreciate your medical education, your educated, your education in all of this, and I have to agree with you on the harm that a lot of this stuff has done. So, I just thank you for your education today.
Thank you.
And the CDC does not mandate masks. They say, yeah, you should wear a mask. But it also says there are people who should not wear masks. And that is where, as policymakers, we have to get this right. We have to get this right because this is a discriminatory action. You're disallowing certain people from inside a public building. So next week, I'm going to have to go to James and say, James, how are we going to allow these people? Now, you guys will say, well, it doesn't say it requires this. The problem is, this is politics. This is the politics of it. So, where are we going to go with this? How long are we going to wear masks? At what level are we not going to wear masks? I guess it's when we get vaccinated now, not when the cases drop like we heard earlier. Why is this narrative changing? And this is bizarre to me. I read all the documents and then I look at the news and I see clearly where most of council is getting their information from. It's a terrible, terrible puking of the media that is they're protecting their interests here, and there'll be more to come on that. But that's essentially what's going on. It's a very sad situation.
Oh, question.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The same sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Carla, roll call vote, please.
I didn't get my chance.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Tim, yes.
Glaser.
Yes.
Kangas.
No.
Rathe.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Beaufore.
No.
On a vote of 4-3 with 0 absent, resolution 20-126 is reaffirmed. Item K, reports from boards and commissions. Item 1 is Library Board of Trustees minutes from January 12th of 2021. Item 2 is Leisure Services Commission minutes of January 21st of 2021. Item 3 is Historic Preservation Commission minutes of January 25th, 2021. Item 4 is Golf Commission minutes of February 9th of 2021. Item 5 is Library Board of Trustees minutes of February 9th of 2021. And item 6 is the Historic Preservation Commission minutes of February 22nd, 2021. Staff updates, Mr. Bronner.
Yes, sir. I know Garrett has a brief update tonight.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yep, thank you. Just in case anyone's getting any questions about when we will be having restrooms opened up in the parks, water on, porta potties in place, that type of stuff. We had everything ready to go last week, and then as you all know, we got down in the 20s towards the end of last week. So everything was unhooked. We will be working on getting everything hooked back up and water turned on this week. So by mid to the end of the week, we will have everything up and going. So just in case anyone's getting questions about that, it is being worked on. Thank you.
Perfect. Do you have a brief update on the Blue Mile run, anything like that?
Yep. So with the Blue Mile, I mentioned Set the Pace Challenge at the last meeting. I have heard from a few of you who will be participating with us, so thank you. And if anyone else wants to get out and do that, that'd be great. What that is from April 17th through the 25th. You can walk or run a mile any of those days. You just need to go to their website, sign up. You sign up with that Waverly zip code, and that'll enter you as a Waverly resident. If you would like to come and walk with Leisure Services staff, we are going to have 3 different walks that we will start at the Civic Center. Sunday, April 18, Wednesday, April 21st, and Thursday, April 22nd. All of those walks will begin at 5 o'clock p.m. So if anyone's interested, come out and walk with us. And what this Set the Pace Challenge does is it does enter us for a chance to win $10,000 for a project in a park, trail, that type of stuff. So yeah, come on out and walk and get healthy. Maybe we'll earn some money as well. So thank you.
Can you repeat those dates?
Absolutely. Sunday, April 18, Wednesday, April 21, and Thursday, April 22nd. And those will all begin at 5 o'clock p.m. At the City Hall Civic Center.
Excellent. I plan on the Sunday, the 18th is the date that I'm available. So if anybody wants to outpace me, come on out and have at it. So, or keep the pace for me, I guess, is even a better thing. So, all right. No further staff comments, Mr. Bronner?
No, sir.
Okay. Move forward with city council comments. We'll start at the top left for me is Mr. Birgen.
I have to say it is, I was sad to learn the news that the CEO of the Waverly Hospital, James Addy, was leaving us. He has done a great job for the community and for the hospital, and I wish him well on his future endeavors. And I have to say I'm very happy for the time we had him here, and I am very sad to see him go. So thank you very much to Mr. Addy for the time that he was with us, and best of luck to him in the future.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rathe, you're next.
I'll echo Brian's comments, but nothing else from me. Thanks.
Next up, Mr. Drenkow.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to Dr. Poock for kind of snapping at him. That's it takes a lot of courage to sit in a guest council seat, even though there actually isn't a literal guest council seat, and to make your thoughts thoughts known, and I should not have snapped at you. I welcome your comments here at the meeting, and even though sometimes discussions get a little bit heated, I should have been more considerate of what you were saying. So I apologize for that. Other than that, I think I've probably done enough damage. I cut off Tim, and he wasn't able to make his comments known. So I think I've done enough damage for tonight. So I have nothing else to say, Mr. Thank you.
I couldn't get the edge of the hatchet in there to get Tim in before you struck down. So maybe next time, Tim. Mr. Schneider.
I don't have anything this evening.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Glaser.
I don't have anything this evening.
Ms. Beaufort.
I just want to thank, Dr. Poock for his education tonight. I really appreciate it. Respect your knowledge, 100%. So I thank you for that. I thank you for being a guest councilperson. And sometimes, sometimes there is a lot of pressure that, leaders in general have in any community, politically or in an organization. But it really does, it's very important that we practice, we practice some emotional restraint, emotional intelligence, and sometimes that can be difficult when we are very passionate about something. But certainly never lashing out at anybody is ever the answer. Also, I just want to mention, we also, over the weekend, I talked to many kids, and they had such a great time. All these kids that I, wasn't around safely, and unfortunately, I heard a lot about bullying, and it is such a tragic thing that kids experience in general at school, but it happens not just at school, but in life in general. And we really need to fix the aggressiveness with everybody and bullying and how we respond and react to each other, and just really practice patience.
Thank you, ma'am. And that leads us to our guest council member, Dr. James Poock.
Thank you for allowing me to participate in this. This was really quite an interesting process. I appreciate everybody's comments, and Rod, no offense taken at all. I understand how that goes, and I think that I just appreciate you guys, and I look forward to our next couple meetings together, and I've really enjoyed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kangas.
Thanks. I that's one of my hazards of not jumping in and trying to jump in. A lot of times I like to listen and then kind of process and digest, and then try to formulate a response after I've heard from several sides, and that catches me occasionally. My just general thought on the masks was, as we are moving towards more people having the opportunity to get the vaccine that want it, and getting to a point where that option is available to have people at that level. I think we're moving towards a point where we should be looking at moving forward to open up, both as far as the city, in terms of that. As a council, I think we really ought to be considering looking forward to moving to an in-council, getting back to being in person fairly soon, even into May if possible. The political side of things, I've been in the schools for all year, and in Iowa we've been open. Some schools have been every day. Some schools have been every other day for a little bit and then have been to every day. And yet I look at other states where they're scared to even open up and get kids back in 1 or 2 days a week. And in Iowa, we're in enclosed situations, and some of these states are places where they actually have schools that they're not as enclosed. They have the ability to have windows open year round and have air circulating and being outside, and yet they're still not having kids in school. So it's been a really stressful year plus for everybody as we go on to day 380 of the 2 weeks to stop the spread or whatever it was. Flatten the curve, that was the term. So that's kind of what I had to say on that. Couple other things I wanted to just point out. Good neighbor around the corner, Mr. Augie Waltman, came by today to get me my tickets for the Lions Club pancake drive-through breakfast this Sunday coming up at the 4-H building. So if you are available for it, they did that in the fall. Their fall breakfast they did that way, and it worked fairly slickly to get through and do that. It's a great organization to support. They do a wonderful job. So something to look forward to again as community starts getting back to a little bit more normalcy that way, hopefully. And then hopefully when we get to this summer, they can get their fly-in or the breakfast out at the airport, and we can get a little more community with Heritage Days getting together and being together, being on as far as that. The other one, and I guess I go back to another serious subject I wanted to just bring up because I had read a number of posts after we passed the budget the last month or so talking about the city not passing a balanced budget. And I guess, James, my understanding after having been on the council now for 11 years and have passed for 12 years, yeah, what am I at, 12th budget, we have to pass a balanced budget. That's the Iowa law. Is that not correct?
That is correct. Some people think that if you use reserves or things for one-time events, that it's not a balanced budget, and that's simply not true. It would be much more beneficial if people would actually become educated in what they're talking about before they just spit it out and talk about it. And that's my frustration with a lot of the online presence that you're seeing. There is no education of what's going on there. We did a balanced budget. We have to do a balanced budget. Simply because we use some of our reserves, as every city everywhere does not mean it is not a balanced budget.
And part of that, just again, from my experience, part of what people see as off at times is because we do a fiscal year of July 1st to June 30th every year. We have projects that start in May and finish in August. And so we start spending money on one of it in one fiscal year and finish it in another fiscal year. And so sometimes those balances carry over, and it's an accounting, it looks odd, but it's not that the budget is not balanced. It's that it's because of how our calendar has to fall to make that work. The federal government likes to throw one in to us in the middle of October with their budget, as far as I believe theirs goes October to September or something like that. So everybody has different budget years, and you have to pay taxes on January through December. So it keeps the accountants employed, I guess, is one way to do that. No offense, Gina. As far as that, the same thing with, I know people have been getting property taxes and assessed values. I don't think there was an equalization this year in the county. Was there, James? Are you aware of?
No, sir, we did not have an equalization.
Okay, so it is just, there have been some higher assessed values that have come around this year in the county, which, again, the city, I guess we can control the value of property, mean, there are things we could do that could lower the value of your property, but I don't think you really want us doing that. I don't think most citizens want us doing that. And so unfortunately, the side effect is that your property value then does tend to go up, and as a result, taxes coincide with that. It's our duty to look at the budget as responsibly as we can, to balance it, to make decisions on projects, and to move what we can and do what we can with what we have. So I guess that's what I have to say for that. I'll stop with that for tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Couple comments that I had. Try to keep it quick here. Tim covered a little bit of it with the Lions Club breakfast. I didn't want to interrupt you tonight with that. 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Prefer that you get tickets in advance. If you want to see me there, I'll be there from 10 to 12:30, serving as a member of the Lions Club myself, again at the fairgrounds. Kind of piggybacking off of what Tim had said, I advised James I was going to make a couple comments about this. A lot of people saw in their mailbox today the 2021 real estate assessment roll for your properties. I just pulled up on public record here and found that this council and myself, the average increase in property valuation or the assessed value after adjustments across this board went up 7.05%. So we're not any less subjected to that. And across the board, the least was just under 4%, and the highest stakeholder in the race at 12.17% was myself. So I had the highest assessment increase. Not real proud of that. However, the people that have reached out to me with the questions of what in the world is going on, and I saw the city vehicles driving by and they're jacking up my assessment. That's not an accurate assumption, and like James had said, a little bit of education to those folks is kind of turn their eye to, oh, okay, that's how it works. So I just want to read the statement off of the bottom of the assessment roll here. So assessments are required to be the 100% fair market value of the property unless otherwise provided by the Code of Iowa in its condition as of January 1st of 2021. This is the amount established by the assessor's office before application of the state rollback factor. The 2021 assessed value will be the basis of your tax bill in 2022, 2023. So notice, if you are not satisfied with the foregoing assessment on your assessment roll, or you don't believe it's correct, you may contact the assessor on or after April 2nd to and including April 25th of the year of the assessment to request an informal review of the assessment pursuant to section 441.30. If you're not satisfied with that the foregoing assessment is correct, you may file a protest with the Board of Review on or after April 2nd up to and including April 30th of the year of the assessment. So in order to do that, you reach out to Assessor Gene Keller's office. Phone number is 319-352-0145, and inform her that you would like an informal review initially, and then you can also file a official protest against the assessment to go in front of the Board of Review for that. This is their job. So if you don't feel that it's accurate or wish to contest it, that is your right and responsibility to act accordingly. But I think as Ms. Beaufore said earlier, do so with dignity and respect. They have their job to do, and they can explain things a little bit better of how they come to that assessment. So with that being said, I do not have anything further, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Kangas, second by Beaufore. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.